Hello, everyone. I'm Yasmin Taj, Managing Editor with People Matters, and I'm extremely excited to welcome you all to Top Jobs in India 2.0, an Indeed and People Matters initiative to help people find jobs. For our new viewers, this is an initiative to showcase companies that are hiring right now and to get a sneak peek from a senior leader about their culture, their hiring plans for 2021, and the key skill sets they are looking for. Most of us would love to be a part of a company that is progressive, disruptive, and forward thinking. And luckily, today we have the opportunity to introduce you to one such company, Urban Company, who is on the lookout to hire some of the best talents for their open positions. And I have the pleasure of having with me Suhail Vadgaonkar, Director, People's Excellence at Urban Company. Suhail has been with Urban Company for almost 6 years now and has been a part of the industry for over 12 years. Prior to working with the Urban Company, he was associated with ITC Hotels. He has also championed the mental health policy at Urban Company under three therapies and has also enabled unlimited mental health leave policy in the organization. Welcome, Suhail, and thank you so much for joining us for this session.
Thanks, Yasmin. Thanks for having me and Urban Company be a part of this. Excited to share about what we're going to be doing through the year and the talent we're looking to bring on.
Absolutely. So are we excited to hear more on this. So really looking forward to interacting with you, Suhail, and knowing more about life at Urban Company and what it is like to work in one of the largest tech companies today. So for all our viewers today, if you want to know anything specific about Urban Company, please post your questions in the comment section, which is on the right side of your screen. And if you're watching this episode through our Facebook or YouTube channels, feel free to post your questions in the comment section. We will try and answer as many questions as possible. So let's have the questions flowing in, everyone. And without further ado, there's a lot to learn from Suhail today. So let's start with the first question. How do you foresee the overall job market in India shaping up in the next 6 to 9 months, Suhail?
All right. So, Yasmin, I think the job market has been fairly promising over the last quarter and a half itself, right? While we know 2020 was not a great year, a lot of people lost their jobs. Things picked up fairly quickly, much earlier than it was predicted. If I have to give you Urban Company's perspective itself, when just before the lockdown was announced, we had gone into a hiring freeze, right, which was first week of March. And we had imagined that the hiring freeze would go on through the year. But, by the end of the second quarter, that's end of June, we were hiring again, right, because our business was growing. We are a digital company, so we came into the e-commerce space. So, of course, the lockdown, in some ways was a boon for us. Not the lockdown, but the pandemic, right? But I don't want to generalize, but most of my sort of, at least the intelligence I have from other companies who are in our space, were hiring, by the middle of 2020. That has only sort of manifested into larger business and more and greater hiring needs, right, which is going to continue through 2021. So the job space is fairly promising as we speak.
And I agree with you on that, Suhail. I think, especially as you said, there were some companies who had started hiring right from the middle of 2020, and there are more companies now since 2021 began. I see a lot of hiring news coming in large bulk numbers, actually, and not only just the digital and tech companies, but even other industries are now opening up, and that's interesting because as you said, we did not expect the recovery to come back, to happen so fast. So that's interesting, really interesting to know. So moving on to my next question for you, since you said you started hiring right from June. So and at present also you're hiring for a lot of open positions. What are some major roles you're planning to hire for in the next few months, Suhail? And if you could tell us a little bit more about the hiring volumes that you're looking at.
Okay, so we are hiring across, right? From engineering to marketing to business to HR. I have right now, we're a team of 20 people in HR. We have 5 open positions. Right.
Nice.
So yeah, I mean, we are going to increase our strength by 20%. Right. So that should give you a perspective of the numbers we're hiring. But yeah, where have we really hired? A lot is engineering for sure. We're a tech company, so tech first. So we have really worked on building our engineering strength. When we started off 2020, we had a team of 90 engineers. Today, that number sits at 130, right? We also went to campuses for the first time in our existence in 2020 to hire for engineering, and we've got 50 engineers joining us in June this year, right? So I mean, if you look at the way we've hired, it'll be like, hey, were you actually in the world of a global pandemic? Uh, but I mean, engineering aside, we are hiring in business. We ended up hiring a lot of leadership in the year 2020. Right, we had an SVP of finance join us, an SVP of marketing join us. We have an SVP of HR joining us next week. So I mean, if we've hired at that level, we've hired at all levels, right?
Yeah.
Where are we going to continue to hire in the year 2020? We are going to continue to hire in in our tech. So that's engineering, product, and design, right from entry level to middle management. Right, we are definitely hiring into human resources, but we are hiring across. In marketing, we are again now doing a small campus effort because we realized that hey, we had slowed down on our entry level hiring in marketing. So we are going to campuses and saying that hey, can we come right in the month of March? So we are looking to hit DU next week, right? So we're going to be doing a lot of entry level hiring in marketing, and in business, of course. So business is our category teams. We've got the homes business, we've got the beauty business. Again, we will hire across in business, right? Operations we have outsourced, but we still do have an in-house strength of 500. So of course, where there will be some amount of attrition, and we will be backfilling. So across the organization, across levels, we will be hiring. Even as we speak in engineering, we are hiring at the director level and the vice president level. So it's top to bottom across the company, all wide.
Very interesting. I'm sure our audience would be smiling right now because there must be people that joining us from this fresher level to the middle level and a lot of human resource professionals. So everyone's welcome. I think Suhail is here with a lot of open positions for everyone. So thank you for sharing that, Suhail. How about locations? Are there any particular location that you're planning to hire for? Or since we're talking a lot about remote working, are you planning to open up some roles for remote workforce as well, Suhail?
Okay, interesting question, but also a tricky one. But I want to be as candid as possible, right? I think what 2020 taught us, and we continue to work from home, although some of us who want to be in office are in office. What 2020 taught us was that you can get work done very well virtually, right? Um, However, there have been two schools of thought. One, of course, we've opened up a second office in Bangalore. So across, so the reason is that a lot of tech talent sits out of Bangalore. A lot of companies that are at our scale, our level, are based out of Bangalore, right? So what happens is when you restrict yourself to Gurgaon, you're restricting yourself to a limited talent pool. So Bangalore was a given. Also, a lot of people with young children in Gurgaon have, the moment November hits and the pollution picks up, they're always asking the question, why are we here? Why don't we just quit our jobs? So we said, rather than losing these people, let's give them the opportunity to move to Bangalore with their families where they can breathe better. So Bangalore has opened up. We're actively hiring, in Bangalore. We are offering Bangalore as a location. However, when it comes to remote working, I think one thing we've realized is that the impact of working remotely is um, is a bit detrimental on the individual himself or herself, because a lot of the work that we do is collaborative, right? A lot of value is to be seen in face-to-face interactions, and just being in the office. Um, while hiring remotely has been, or virtually has been, easy, onboarding has been very, very tough, right? And it's not a great experience for the person who's working virtually continuously, right? So we've taken a conscious call not to hire remotely. We do want to offer more locations, right? And of course, right, we're not enforcing work from office as we speak. Even the way forward is going to be a hybrid way. So what we're saying is that work out of the office twice a week. You choose when. Of course, it'll be based on your manager. When they want to decide, when they want to meet and have meetings. But we also want to offer people the flexibility of working from home, right? But yeah, are we going to hire people out of say Vizag, Calcutta? Not as of now. At least that we want to avoid, because we did see we also did see significant attrition in the people who joined us remotely and move away, right? Because it was just it wasn't easy for them.
That's interesting. I think thanks for being candid on that, because a lot of companies are actually exploring that side, where they can hire remotely. But you've taken a conscious decision, and I think it's something that we should respect actually. But don't you think you're missing out on the larger talent pool? Just a question.
I think now that we've opened up Bangalore, and Bangalore is a talent pool we're already targeting. That's more than 100% increase for us in the target talent pool. We
Yeah,
are we are also we are also exploring Bombay as an option to have as a third office, right? Because see, let me spell it out, right? Gurgaon has some talent, mix of tech, marketing, all of it. Bangalore has great tech talent, right? Bombay has great marketing talent,
yeah,
right? So if we sort of have our bases covered, um, I think we'd be good.
yeah,
Plus, Yasmin, we're not that large a company. We are
yes.
we are 1,200. When we went into 2020, we were 1,200 even then. So we've actually sort of and consciously we are looking to ensure this number doesn't go you know beyond 20% every year. Um, so it's not that our hiring numbers are very, very large in the larger scheme of things. Yes, from our perspective, we will constantly be hiring, but our numbers
Mhm.
are not that high.
Okay, okay, that's interesting. Thanks for sharing that, Suhel. And how about skill sets? What are some specific skill sets, if you could point out a few of them, that you're looking for when you're talking about all the open positions that you have right now, Suhel?
Okay. Um, so one skill set that is common across functions, across levels, is the ability to analyze data, right? We're a very, very data uh, reliant company. We use data to do all our decision making, big or small. And we've seen people struggle if they're not hands on with data. They're not hands on, and it's not that they need to know SQL, etc. But as long as they're comfortable enough with Excel, that's good enough. And when I say across function, I mean it, right? Whether it's in human resources, whether it's in marketing, whether it's in technology, being able to work with data is super important. I think that is one key skill set across organization, across functions. Um, the second is, and I'm going to talk about marketing over here, is that when we actually did do a lot of hiring for marketing in the last couple of months. And while we love hiring generalists, and we want more generalists in the organization, one thing we realize is that one key skill set for any marketer to be successful is to have some amount of creative thinking, right? While yes, we're a very left-brained organization, but that right brain to succeed in marketing is very important, right? Your ability to understand what communication is going to work with consumers, right? Understand emotions of your consumers. Marketing is all it's all about emotions, right? As long as you can tap the emotion of your consumer, you've got a foot in the door. So that creative ability is very, very important, right? Otherwise, I'd say that we are, of course, in engineering we have different stacks. uh, you know as long as you're able to code, it doesn't necessarily matter. at a slightly junior level, right? Of course, then there are different complexities on what kind of code you worked on, what kind of stack you worked on, etc. I won't get into those details. And I think overall across the organization, so whether it's product, whether it's business, even finance, um, as long as you're a generalist and you have the ability to be analytical, and you're very, very comfortable with data, um, you're good. So, yes, data orientation, I'd say, is the key skill set required to work at Urban Company. Apart from that, a great attitude. We are all about attitude over aptitude. Yeah, and bias for action, right? The ability to get things done.
Yeah.
That's super important. I
Interesting.
mean, I'd say that while we may not look like a startup, we have become pretty big. I think the way we operate is like a startup. We a lot of bias for action, lot of ownership given to people just to get things done. We say ship, then perfect, right?
Yeah.
So these are some important skill sets, I'd say. But I mean, if you notice what I've spoken about, it's more about the softer aspects
Yes.
of people
Yeah.
than the hard skills.
I think yes, and that actually has been highlighted in the past 1 year specifically. How do people, what kind of resilience and agility do people show? How do they deal with challenges? I think some softer skills really came to the forefront last year. And as you said, creativity, innovation again, how do you do things differently? Those are also very, very important. So thanks for sharing that. And since you already spoke about how attitude is more important at Urban Company than aptitude, let's talk a little bit more about the work culture, the work life culture at Urban Company. So here.
Okay, I because I had talent acquisition, I'm often told this when I'm talking to candidates that hey, we don't know too much about the urban company culture, right? There isn't much out there, but we know you all don't have a bad culture because no company can hide bad culture. This is what I have to say. We have three values. The urban company values. That's basic, ownership, and reimagine. Right? These are our core values. Um, I'd say basic actually defines our organization and the culture of the organization. Right? We are, we strongly believe in fundamentals. If you come into our office, you'll see it's a nice office, but you'll never see the bells and whistles. You won't see a fancy pantry. And this also trickles down into how we work, right? Um, People are given a couple of things at UC. One is great work to do, right? What we focus a lot is, and we keep telling people that if you feel you are making impact, you are succeeding. The moment you feel that you're not making impact, then maybe it's time to look for a new role within the company as well, right? Because you can sort of get bored of what you're doing quickly enough, right? So as long as you're making impact, you're fine. You don't need to do anything else. The second is that we have great talent, right? We work very, very hard on hiring. The number of rounds a candidate goes through, the amount of calibration we do post the hiring process, and even the ref checks. We rely a lot on ref checks. We do back channel ref checks also, right? If someone has a contact at this company, we'll go and talk to them. So we definitely work very hard on hiring, and hence our talent pool is fantastic. So for any fresher or a junior person or even a mid-level person, right? You're going to have a very talented manager to work with, right? He may be tough, but what is important is that you're going to get to learn, right? And this reflects in how people get hired outside of UC, right? When if they choose to move out at some point, they do land great jobs outside as well. So the opportunity to work with fantastic people is the second, and the third is we have a very employee friendly and a rewarding ESOP policy. So I'm going to be very candid in saying that we are not the best paymasters, right? We will never pay salaries like Swiggy, Flipkart, Google, right? And we don't even aspire to. What we do believe is in our ESOPs. We award ESOPs across, right from like our call center executives to the SVPs. They are awarded ESOPs at the time of the appraisals. Of course, while at the time of hiring, we they are given to senior managers and above, right? But ESOPs is really the way to create wealth. Um, we are a company that's seen its valuation grow rapidly, right? And we have given our employees the opportunity to leverage our ESOP policy and cash in. So, in our existence of 6 years, we've had three secondaries, right? And the last secondary round was in the month of August, and we had over 130 or 140 people participate in that. All the eligibility was for, I think it was about 300 people, right? So ESOPs matters a lot, right? And that's the real wealth creation tool. The salary will always ensure that you make ends meet, it pays the bills, but what's really going to help with wealth creation are ESOPs. So coming back to the point, our culture is very basic, right? We ensure that you get what you need, right? Beyond that, you have to enjoy your work. The work is challenging, and we do want to expose our talent to as many challenges as possible. Yeah, but you're not going to get Costa coffee in the office. You're not going to get Subway sandwiches in the office. No fancy offsites. Yeah.
I think there's some beauty in simplicity. So I think that's where you're coming from, Sohail. Keeping it basic, keeping it authentic really does matter. And you're helping them create wealth. I think what more would people ask for? So that's very, very interesting. So thanks for sharing that. Since we're talking about work-life culture at Urban Company and we spoke about how you champion the cause of mental health at Urban Company, we have a question from one of our audience members who says, you mentioned about mental health leave policy. Could you please elaborate a little bit on that?
Sure. So, 2020 was a strange year, right, for most. We were in lockdown. Suddenly, we were working, out of our homes. For a lot of people who live alone, suddenly to go home and work day in day out, that was tough, right? Also, there was the health scare. COVID was, I mean, there was always like this what if around COVID, right? What if I get it? What do I do? This, that. Landlords were being unkind to their tenants who were COVID positive. Societies were being unkind. So there was a lot of anxiety that had built up. And this happened like across levels. And I'd give my own example. I also had a certain amount of anxiety, and I remember I was talking to a friend of mine, and uh, he's just done a psychology, and he said, you should talk to someone. This seems a bit off offhand. So I did, and I saw, I got a lot of clarity. I saw a lot of value in it. I wasn't depressed or anything, but I like, it gave me a lot of comfort. And in a conversation, with the founders, we were talking about this, and the question really was about how many people in our team are going through it, right? And what can we do to help? So we actually, were in talks with this platform called Ivel. They are like Urban Company. They have therapists online, and who you can connect with, right? And they connect you to these therapists. So we kind of, negotiated a deal with them, and we opened up this facility to our internal team. And we said that, look, if you're feeling slightly stressed, you're disturbed in some way, you're anxious, just like, just reach out to Ivel and they'll connect you with therapists. And we were picking up the bill for that, right? We were It was a paid facility by Urban Company. We had done a little bit of data analysis around this. We had got this idea from Freshworks, and they had said that they've always had this facility, and at the time when they started it, they had an adoption of 1%. So 1% of their employee base was using the service. And they said in the in the lockdown we saw this jump to 2%, 2.5%. So we said, okay, if a 3% uh, adoption would also be great. We actually saw this number jump to 8%, right? That's how many people actually wanted to use this service and saw value in it, right? Now, post that, we realized that okay, this is not a small problem, right? If people are having anxiety and some kind of mental stress, we need to do something more about this. And we said that hey, if your therapist advises you to take leave, you can just apply for leave, no questions asked. And we even created a tab in our leave drop down saying mental health, right? And this was not being deducted from the privilege leave, so it was a completely separate this thing facility being provided. We didn't see too many people. We actually didn't see the jump in mental health leave. Um, but we did see a lot of people get that comfort and say that, hey, this is really nice. It's really cool of you all to do that. Right. So yeah, I think broadly the impact on the organization was very positive. Right. Of course, like it's important that you tell your team that you care about them. Like I
Yeah.
said, we do very basic things. I think mental health is basic, very fundamental. The impact of stress on anyone's mental health is very high, right? And it's detrimental. Um, so I think this was one of the basic things that we got right in the year.
Yeah, I think as you said, it could be considered basic, but it's integral, and the impact is really really high. Very important, I think, in these times. So I think that's a great initiative. So thanks for sharing that, Suhail. Another question coming up is, again, since we are again talking about policies and practices, any particular women employee centric policies your organization has adopted is a question from our audience.
Yeah, I'd say that. So stepping back, I don't think we have done a great job in hiring when it comes to building diversity, right? Uh, Currently in our leadership, that's the SVP and VP levels, we have all of one lady lead, right? So for us in this year, we have actually said that we will have a couple of leadership roles that are going to be women only. That we're going to ensure that we bring in women into these roles, right? And we actually started off with our head legal position, and we were able to bring on a great lady. She's joined us, and we absolutely love her. But I think we have to start off with having enough women at the decision making level, right?
Yes.
Because I'll tell you, it's very tough for a bunch of guys to sit in a room and decide, hey, this is what matters to women and this is what doesn't matter to women, right?
Yeah.
Like I said, we don't want to do cute things. We want to do things that are that create impact, right? That women do feel that there is value, and I think that starts with hiring, right? That starts with hiring. That starts with us committing to having a certain number of women at the leadership level.
Yeah.
Not just for us, but from a business perspective, right? Half our consumer base is women,
Yeah.
and men are taking decisions on what's right for women. That's just not.
Great. Thanks for sharing that, Suhail. I think yes, it's very important to make that change right from the hiring level, because you have to become an equal opportunity employer, and that is when you give open the doors for more women to join in, and hence the flow. And I think there's a natural progression to becoming more equal. So thanks for sharing that. Okay, coming back to hiring now, Suhail. Any major changes that you've made to your interview and assessment process, given that everything is happening virtually now?
Um, Not really. Yes. I think I think the interview process has pretty much been the same. I think what we have done is that we've tried to make see face-to-face interviews actually can really stretch, right? So what we have done is whenever we set up interviews, we have set agendas. Um, we have actually made the effort of creating competencies and trying to get interviews to be based on competency testing, right?
Okay.
One competency and one soft skill. Um, Idea has been to bring down interviews from 1 hour to 45 minutes or even 30 minutes, right? While we might do 4 or 5 rounds, depending on the role, we don't necessarily need them to be very long. The other thing we've done is that we started measuring something called candidate NPS, right? So NPS is our North Star metric for our business. So it's what it's you often get that question. There's an 11-point scale, and the question says how likely are you to rate the service or product to your friends and family.
Yes. Yes.
Um, so we've started sending out that question as well post the interview because we want to understand where the process lies in terms of candidate experience, right? And working to build out the candidate experience. And when we started doing this, one of the things we realized is that two things that came out. One is that people felt that the interviews were not challenging enough. Um, the second was that people did say that a lot of questions were repeated, right? So that gave us insight into how to tweak the interview process.
Okay.
But there is a lot of work to be done over here. But
Yeah.
if your question is that have we done this consciously because we've gone into virtual way of hiring, then no, it would have happened otherwise also. I think
Okay.
what has
Great.
happened is that we have saved costs on travel. We don't need to fly candidates in. So that has been one positive impact.
Yeah, I think that has been a cost saving for most organizations since the travel part has been cut down. So yes, great.
Yeah.
Thanks, Sohail. Okay, so how about what would be a few tips for candidates to stand out in the virtual interviews that your organization conducts?
I think knowing about the companies is of course very important, right? And one of the uh, key questions that often differentiates candidates is on their answer to why urban company, right? Why would they want to join urban company? And that is when we often realize the depth of the candidate. We often see, candidates saying that, hey, you're a well-funded, you're a growing organization, but that doesn't reflect much on the purpose of the candidate himself, right? Because the candidate is interviewing for a certain role, right? So of course the company matters that where they're going to join, but it's also about that role and the impact that they're going to be able to create. So I think that's very important, right? When candidates come with depth on their purpose to be a part of this organization. I think what really helps is when candidates go through the Glassdoor reviews, right? It gives them some insight into the culture. Like it shows that you've prepared, you've done your research, right? Maybe had a couple of conversations with existing folks in open companies, especially if they've been referred by someone. I think that's really helpful. And of course, reading the blogs that we have out there, again, gives enough insight into the organization. I don't think there's much someone can do to sharpen their hard skills before an interview. But I think
Yeah.
it's softer aspects that really differentiate candidates.
Yeah, great. Thanks. Thanks for sharing that. I think yes, that makes a lot of sense. Also, what is the hierarchical structure at Urban Company? Do you have a very flat structure, or is hierarchy an important aspect for an organization like yours?
So yes, we do have some amount of hierarchy, but I think the hierarchy exists for decision making, right? Um, Otherwise, we're a very flat organization. I mean, in the office, you could be sitting next to your functional VP or SVP, right? You are free to approach anyone, including the founders. The founders sit on the floor as well. The founders will also, if they know your name, they'll catch you and have a conversation with you. So will any leader in the organization, right? So it's a very open door policy. You can always share your views. You can always share your thoughts. You can always share your grievances as well. Right? I do tell the HR team this, that our customers are our employees, right? So when anyone comes to you with a problem, don't get upset about it, but work to solve the problem structurally. Yes, there is hierarchy. We have a couple of layers or levels, but like I said, that's largely for decision making. um, right? So if someone comes to me with a tough problem that's beyond my scope, I often say that, yeah, that's beyond my pay grade, so talk to my boss.
Great. That's interesting. Yes, I do agree that there's some structure that's required. So that's why hierarchy exists. But other than that, if you have open culture, if you have approachable people, as you said, and if people can talk to you, boss as boss, I think that's going to be very critical. So thanks for sharing that, Sahil.
So that's important. You see, I'll tell you why hierarchy is important. Is that, look, we're also looking to go public in the next 2 years, right? So there is a lot of decision making. There's a lot of complexity in that, and there are people who are specialized at doing that, right?
Yeah.
So there it's important. But of course, I think from a cultural aspect, um, one would say no, that it's fairly flat. I wouldn't say completely flat. It's fairly flat.
Right.
Those are always everyone's doors are always open.
Great. Thank you. Thanks, Sahil. Thanks for sharing that. Now, moving on to upskilling and training programs. Are there any specific, programs you'd like to call out for our people who are watching this session right now? How is Urban Company investing in its people in terms of learning?
Yeah, again, a great output of the pandemic. Right, we used the lockdown period to actually build out something called Urban Company Academy, right, which is our in-house learning and development program. So, if going back to the earlier conversation when we started off, I did say that data skills are very, very important for anyone coming into urban company, right? And of course, it's not just that people need to come with that skill, but we are also invested in training people on that. So our L&D program has largely been built towards skilling people with data analytics skills, right? So we do have Excel programs. We also do have advanced Excel and SQL training, right? Lot of focus is towards our contact center employees and non-tech employees who want to build these skills. Right, we have a very large trainer ecosystem. We have almost 150 trainers, and these are trainers who work on training our partners, right? They are also expected to be on top of numbers. So we've had a program running since May on Excel, advanced Excel and SQL training. Um, that's been very important and always been oversubscribed. So not something that we can say, okay, now we're going to discontinue this. So that has been a key one. The other one has been you know see, we're a young company, right? And a lot of people who join us straight out of their grad school, B schools, etc. So we're talking about people who are in the age group of 20 to 23, right? Now, anyone who spent 18 to 24 months in urban company is has definitely moved into a managerial role, right? That means they become people managers. They're managing three or more people. Uh, we realized this, after doing some amount of research, that it's important for us to skill these new managers with with enough inputs for them to succeed in as people managers. Um, so what we did was, after talking to like a whole lot of new managers and their managers. We put together a new management training program, right? And it trains them on conflict management, communication, appreciation, some of the more basic things. But we also use people within the organization to become mentors on those topics. And because we have a promotion cycle which runs twice a year, we are constantly training people over here as well, right? And the new management training program it's a good quarter long program. Sessions happen once or twice a week, but there are long sessions. But that has continued. So these have been two key programs which we've seen a lot of value in. But we definitely want to take this to the next level. I think we need to do some leadership development programs as well. I think we've just been very caught up with executing and getting these right. But yeah, there's more to be done.
Yes, absolutely. I think, yes, the pandemic was a year that brought learning to the forefront of everything else. Everybody wanted to stay relevant, learn more, not just organizations putting that effort, individuals themselves wanted to learn more. So it was a good time to start. So thanks for sharing these initiatives, Suhail. And before I come to the last question for you, I have another question from our audiences which says, what is your organization's take on hybrid workplace model? And what are your plans for 2021 and beyond?
Yeah. So I mentioned a little on this earlier. We are all for hybrid, right? And by hybrid, I mean that we will have people come into the office, a couple of times a week, maybe at max twice a week, right? And that's coordinated with their teams and their managers. I think they'd all like to be in as a team. Um, and of course work from home. I think people have seen a lot of value and in working from home as well, especially people with families, right? It's really hard running a home, right? If you spend 5 days in the office, and it's not just for, I'd say this is not just for wives and moms, but for everyone. Your weekends are full of chores, right? So if you can manage one or two of those over the week, then that's great, right? Because you actually get the weekend to yourself to enjoy yourself. But yeah, we're all for hybrid. I think the only thing that I had mentioned earlier, that when we are not committing to remote, or remote only as of now, right? But hybrid for sure. Also, I mean, from a company perspective, you get to reduce the amount of office space you're having, right? That's a direct cost saving. Yeah. So I mean, we saw that, right? We gave up 50% of our offices. We've taken up new smaller offices. We now have training only centers. In Gurgaon, we actually gave up our head office, and we moved to our. We are now sitting where our contact center sits. So they're on one floor, we're on two floors, and then we have a training center on the fourth floor. And now
Nice.
this entire building is with us, so we have full control.
Oh, that's nice. That's actually nice. Thanks. Thanks for sharing that. Also, I have a compliment for you, Suhail, from our audience, who said it was really great to hear about initiatives that the Urban Company has taken up. So thanks for sharing.
No, I'm
And
glad to hear that. But yeah, I mean, as long as our employees see the value, that's all we need.
absolutely, yes. And moving on to our final question for this session, Suhail, if you had to call out three things on why a candidate should join your organization, what would those be?
Uh, First thing is the kind of people you go to work with, right? We're a very young organization. I think the oldest person in the team is maybe close to 50, right? But he's a complete outlier, and he has the spirit of a 30-year-old. Right? But I think the median age at Urban Company is about 27, 28, right? So you get to work with young, dynamic, very energetic people. Um, Great pedigree, have done a lot of work. Like I said, your manager will ensure that you are continuously learning, right? And that should be anyone's reason to join. You see, um, as a company, we are always innovating. To give you a little bit of perspective, when we started off in 2014, we actually started off in a very crowded space, right? we were not the only services marketplace. Today we're the last man standing. Right? So we obviously did some things right. We did it the hard way, but we got it right. Right? And this is working for us. We've also expanded to UAE. We just launched our third city in UAE, Sharjah. We're already in Abu Dhabi and Dubai. We are in Singapore. We are in Australia. We're going to be launching in Melbourne very soon, second Australian city, and we're launching Saudi Arabia anytime soon. The moment that borders open up, we are ready to
Wow.
launch. Um, so we are taking this beyond the shores of India, right? And the the business opportunity is huge, but really, what are we trying to solve is a very deep rooted services hiring problem, right? Globally, the way services are hired are very rudimentary
Yes.
through yellow pages or through a reference.
Yes.
We want to change that. We want to change that. And the vision of the organization it's very sort of profound, right? The vision is that we want to deliver great services to people, unlike before, and enable 1 million service providers. Uh, the second part of the vision, which is enabling service providers, is also the impact we are making to the blue collared strata, that we're actually moving them from blue collared to gray collared. Right? These are
Yes.
people who are making, up to 25,000 rupees a month, and now we have seen many of them earn upwards of 1 lakh a month. Right? A lot of our salon beauticians, based out of Gurgaon, based out of Bombay, have hit that number. So that is the impact we're making to the workforce, right? So being a part of that vision it's very fulfilling.
Yes. I agree. Thanks, Sohail. So for our audience members who are watching this right now,
Sorry,
Urban Company.
sorry.
Yes, please.
I gave two reasons, and the third reason is our ESOP policy. I mean, the opportunity to get rich on ESOPs is very real.
Yeah. So what I'd add is that it's not just these three reasons. I think there are many, many more reasons for people to join Urban Company. It's a fast-growing company, has a beautiful culture. As you can see, it's expanding and growing on an everyday basis with a lot of hiring happening. So everyone watching us right now, please do log on to their website and apply to the roles that you are most suitable for. So on that note, Suhail, thank you so much for your time. I think it was a great conversation. Got to learn so much about Urban Company and the kind of work-life culture that you have and the kind of hiring plans that you have for the future. So thank you so much for giving us time.
Yeah, thanks so much, Yasmin. There was, I think, one more question which I missed. That is, what are your hiring plans for freshers in
Yes.
2021?
Yes.
I'll answer that. I think um, we have in the past, I think, avoided fresher hiring for whatever reasons, right? I think we felt that experienced folks hit the ground running. Like I said, we are going to campus next week to hire for freshers in
Yes.
marketing. We are all for freshers. I think what happens is that it is with freshers you can bring in people. You need to invest 3 months in training them. I think in the past we just didn't have that kind of time to train people and get them
Yeah.
running. So
Yeah.
now we are committed to doing that. So yes, we will hire freshers. We will visit more campuses. We're very excited about that. Like I also mentioned, in engineering, we've hired 50 freshers who will join us. We are also a
Yes.
little worried that 50 kids are going to join a team of 130 people. But we're looking forward to that freshness and energy, and
Yes.
we want to get it right. So yeah, we do see a lot of value in hiring freshers, right? And we're excited about that.
Great. Thank you. Thank you for answering that, Suhail. Thank you so much once again. So on that note, that was all the time we had for this session. Suhail, it was great having this conversation with you.
Thank you so much, Yasmin. Great conversation. Loved answering all these questions. You did grill me a lot, but
Yes.
it was fun. I hope I was able to share enough perspective on what life at UC is like.
Yes, I think yes, you did, and very, very and I think it became it was very inspirational for people watching, I think, so that they can join a company which is so fast growing, which is on the path to success. And there's something so much that they can take from that, the ESOPs policy, the culture that they're talking about, the whole opportunity to work with young and dynamic people. I think that is what clicks for UC as a company. So thank you for taking us through all of that.
Pleasure's all mine, Yasmin.
Great. Thank you. Thank you so much once again, Sohail. And on that note, that's all for now, everyone. But we will be live again with more such exciting opportunities. So please don't forget to tune in. See you shortly and take care and stay safe till then, everyone. Take care and bye-bye.
Bye.
Bye. Thanks, Sohail.